The alien armada targeted Earth and vanished before Mars. The sensors screamed their warning across every military installation on Earth. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display aboard the orbital defense station, his coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips. 217 contacts, all massive, all accelerating toward Earth from beyond Jupiter's orbit. "Confirm those readings," he barked at Specialist Lisa Grant, though he already knew she had checked 3 times. The young technician's hands trembled as she worked her console. "Confirmed, sir. Unknown vessels." Size estimates range from half a kilometer to nearly 5 kilometers in length. They're not slowing down. Morrison slammed his palm against the communications panel. "Get me Admiral Parker at Space Command. Now." Within 90 seconds, every defense network on the planet went to maximum alert. Fighter squadrons launched from lunar bases. Missile platforms armed their payload. Humanity's modest collection of 37 combat-capable spacecraft scrambled into defensive positions between Earth and the approaching threat. Colonel Danny Brooks commanded the lead interceptor wing. His squadron of 12 fighters represented the cutting edge of human military technology, armed with nuclear-tipped missiles and railguns that could punch through titanium like paper. Against 200 alien warships, he knew they were laughably outmatched. "All wings. This is Eagle Lead." Brooks transmitted to his pilots, "We hold the line here. Whatever happens, we buy Earth time to evacuate the coastal cities." "Copy that, Eagle Lead," came the responses, each voice tight with controlled fear. The alien armada maintained its trajectory, now crossing Saturn's orbit. Linguistic experts worked frantically to decode the strange transmissions emanating from the fleet. Dr. Karen Walsh led the translation team, her eyes burning from 16 straight hours of analysis. "I've got something," she announced over the global command channel. "It's not a greeting. It's a declaration. They're claiming Earth as property of something called the Zarkonian Collective. They're demanding immediate surrender, or they'll cleanse the planet." Morrison felt ice water flood his veins. "How long until they reach weapons range?" "At current speed, 47 minutes, Grant replied. Every government on Earth erupted into chaos. Bunkers filled with VIPs. Evacuation sirens wailed in megacities. Parents clutched children. World leaders argued over responses that ranged from surrender to last-ditch nuclear gambits. The Armada crossed Mars' orbit. Then something impossible happened. The lead alien vessel, a behemoth 3 kilometers long, simply vanished. One instant it blazed on every sensor array humanity possessed. The next instant, empty space. "What just happened?" Morrison demanded. "I don't know, sir. It just disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone." Another ship vanished, then 3 more, then 20. "Sir, they're all disappearing. Every single contact is winking out." Morrison leaned forward, his mind racing through possibilities. Cloaking technology? Dimensional jump? Had they retreated? Keep scanning. Full spectrum analysis. "I want to know where they went." But the sensors showed nothing. 217 alien warships had simply ceased to exist somewhere between Mars and Earth, and humanity had no idea why. The silence that followed felt heavier than the threat itself. Morrison authorized a reconnaissance sweep. 6 unmanned probes launched toward the last known coordinates of the vanished Armada. Meanwhile, Colonel Brooks ordered his fighter wing to maintain combat readiness, circling in a defensive pattern. "Eagle Lead, this is Eagle 7, called out Captain Nicole Stevens from her cockpit. "My sensors are picking up debris. Small fragments scattered across a wide field." "Can you identify the composition?" Brooks asked. Running analysis now, sir. This is strange. The molecular structure doesn't match anything in our database. It's not human, but it's also breaking apart at the atomic level. Whatever this material is, it's unstable. Dr. Walsh arrived at the orbital station aboard an emergency shuttle, bringing her entire linguistics team with her. She burst into Morrison's command center carrying data tablets and looking more confused than frightened. "We've been analyzing the transmission patterns from the alien fleet," she said without preamble. There was a secondary signal buried in their communications. We almost missed it because it was operating on a quantum frequency we've only theorized about. Morrison gestured for her to continue. The signal was counting down. It reached 0 exactly when the first ship disappeared. But here's what doesn't make sense. The countdown wasn't coming from the alien ships. It was being broadcast at them from somewhere closer to Earth. "Are you saying something here destroyed them?" Morrison asked. "I'm saying something here made them cease to exist. There's a difference. Destruction leaves energy signatures, radiation, heat, bloom. This was more like they were erased." Lieutenant Amy Cooper from the Communications Division interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission, audio only. Source is somewhere in the asteroid belt, but it's moving. Fast." "Put it through," Morrison ordered. The voice that filled the command center spoke perfect English with no discernible accent. "Attention, human defense forces. This is Archon Unit 7 of the Terran Defensive Array. The Zarkonian incursion has been neutralized." "Your planet is secure." Morrison exchanged glances with Walsh. "Terran Defensive Array? We never built anything called that." "Negative," the voice continued, as if hearing his thought. "The array was not constructed by your current civilization. It was installed by your predecessors approximately 12,000 years ago, during what you called the last ice age. We have been dormant, awaiting activation protocols." Brooks broke radio silence from his fighter. "This is Colonel Danny Brooks. If you're claiming to defend Earth, why haven't we detected you before? Our systems operate beyond your current sensor capabilities. We exist in a state your scientists would describe as quantum superposition, observable only when we choose to manifest or when defense protocols engage." Walsh leaned toward Morrison's microphone. "This is Dr. Karen Walsh. You said predecessors. What predecessors? Human history doesn't show any civilization capable of this technology 12,000 years ago. Your historical records are incomplete. The civilization that created us achieved technological singularity long before your current timeline. They foresaw the cyclical nature of cosmic threats and built us as insurance. When the Zarkonian fleet entered your solar system, our recognition algorithms activated. We have been monitoring the collective for 8,000 years, waiting for them to make their move." Morrison's mind reeled. "How did you destroy them?" "We did not destroy them. We displaced them. Each vessel was relocated to a region of space approximately 47,000 light-years distant, in an area your astronomers have classified as void space. They will find no habitable worlds there, no resources. They will drift until their systems fail." "Why not just destroy them?" Brooks demanded. "The Terran Defensive Array operates on principles established by its creators. Proportional response, displacement prevents immediate threat without unnecessary termination of sentient life. However, the array has recorded this intrusion. Should the collective attempt another incursion, the response will escalate." Nicole Stevens maneuvered her fighter closer to the debris field. "Sir, the fragments are completely dissolving now. In about 30 seconds, there won't be any physical evidence this happened." Walsh furiously typed notes. "Archon Unit 7. How many of these defensive units exist?" 43 units maintain active status around your star system. We are positioned at strategic points corresponding to gravitational wells and approach vectors. Your species has unknowingly passed within meters of several units during your space exploration efforts. Morrison felt a chill. Humanity had been protected by invisible guardians for 12,000 years and never knew it. Why reveal yourselves now? He asked. Protocol requires notification when defensive action is taken. Your civilization has reached sufficient technological development to understand the nature of cosmic threats. Continued concealment serves no purpose. Additionally, the Zarkonian Collective will report this failure to their central authority. Your world is now marked as defended territory. Future threats will likely be more aggressive. You should prepare accordingly. The transmission ended as abruptly as it began. Morrison looked around his command center at the faces of his crew. Every person wore the same expression of stunned disbelief. Humanity had just learned they were not alone in the universe, that ancient humans had built impossible defenses, and that the galaxy was far more dangerous than anyone imagined. "Sir, what do we tell people?" Grant asked quietly. Morrison took a deep breath. This would change everything. History would be rewritten. Religions would be challenged. Science would pivot overnight, but they couldn't hide this. Too many people had seen the alerts, tracked the Armada, waited for death that never came. "We tell them the truth," he said finally. "All of it." Within 3 hours, the president addressed the world. The footage played on every screen, every device. People gathered in public squares, living rooms, bars, anywhere they could watch together. President Angela Martinez stood at the podium, her expression grave but steady. "Citizens of Earth, what I'm about to tell you will challenge everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe." She explained it all: the alien armada, the mysterious vanishing, the Terran defensive array, ancient human civilizations that predated recorded history. 43 Guardian units watching over humanity since before the pyramids were built. Riots broke out in some cities. Prayer vigils in others. Scientists demanded access to the array. Military strategists wanted to weaponize the technology. Religious leaders debated what this meant for their faith traditions. Dr. Walsh found herself appointed to lead a global research initiative. She assembled the brightest minds from every nation, setting up operations in a hastily repurposed United Nations facility. Their mission was simple but staggering in scope: understand the Terran defensive array and the ancient civilization that created it. "The archaeological implications alone could take decades," said Professor Henry Chen, a specialist in ancient civilizations. "We need to re-examine every site older than 10,000 years. The builders of the array must have left other traces." Walsh organized teams to scour historical records, analyze ancient texts, and revisit archaeological sites with new scanning equipment. Within days, they began finding anomalies: structures buried beneath known ruins, metal alloys that shouldn't exist in Bronze Age settlements, geometric patterns visible only from orbital altitude. Meanwhile, Morrison coordinated with military commanders worldwide to establish protocols for potential future incursions. If the Zarkonians had found Earth once, others would follow. The array had bought them time, but Archon Unit 7 had been clear: prepare for escalation. Colonel Brooks volunteered to lead a mission to locate one of the array units. "If we can study them, maybe we can learn to build our own defenses." "The Archon said they exist in quantum superposition," Walsh reminded him. "We might not be able to interact with them even if we find one." "Then we find a way," Brooks said stubbornly. "We can't just rely on ancient machines we don't understand. What if they fail? What if they decide we're not worth protecting anymore?" His words struck a chord. Humanity had survived by sheer luck and the foresight of ancestors they never knew existed. That realization sat poorly with people accustomed to controlling their own destiny. 3 days after the incident, Lieutenant Cooper detected another anomaly. "Sir, I'm picking up that same quantum frequency again. Different source, different location. It's coming from beneath the Pacific Ocean." Morrison pulled up the coordinates. The signal originated from a point 2,000 meters below the surface, in a region known for unusual geological activity. "Could be another array unit," Grant suggested. "Or something else entirely," Walsh said, arriving at the command center. "Permission to take a research vessel to investigate?" Morrison hesitated. They knew so little about the array. Who knew what else might be down there? Approved. "But you're taking a military escort. Brooks, assemble a team?" The expedition launched within 18 hours. The research vessel, Neptune's Eye, descended into the dark waters of the Pacific, its lights cutting through the darkness. Brooks commanded a submarine carrying a full security detail, following close behind. "Approaching signal source," announced the Neptune's Eye's pilot, Commander Steve Phillips. "Depth 2,100 meters. Visibility near zero." Walsh studied the sensor readings. "The quantum signature is getting stronger. Whatever's down here, it's massive." Then their lights hit it. A structure rose from the ocean floor, defying every principle of known architecture. Smooth surfaces of an unknown material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. Geometric impossibilities that hurt to look at directly. The building, if it could be called that, stretched at least 1 kilometer in diameter. "My God," Phillips whispered. "Take us closer," Walsh ordered, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. As they approached, panels on the structure began to glow with soft blue light. The quantum frequency intensified. Brooks radioed from his submarine. "Dr. Walsh, recommend immediate withdrawal. We don't know what we're dealing with here." "Just a little closer," Walsh insisted. The structure responded to their proximity. A section of the smooth wall rippled like water, creating an opening. Beyond it, they could see a chamber filled with the same blue light. "It's inviting us in," Grant said from the orbital station, monitoring their telemetry. Walsh made a decision that would change the course of human history. "We're going inside." Brooks cursed but followed. Both vessels entered the chamber. The opening sealed behind them, but instead of panic, Walsh felt a strange calm. The air inside registered as breathable, though they were 2 kilometers underwater. They surfaced in an impossible space. A vast underground cavern that shouldn't exist, filled with technology that made Earth's most advanced systems look like stone tools. Holographic displays showed star charts of the galaxy. 3-dimensional maps tracked thousands of vessels through space. Archives containing information humanity couldn't begin to comprehend. And in the center of it all stood a figure. It appeared human, but Walsh could tell it was synthetic. Perfect proportions, eyes that glowed with internal light. When it spoke, the same voice they'd heard from Archon Unit 7 filled the chamber. "Welcome to Archive Prime. Your civilization has reached the threshold. It is time you learned your true history." Walsh stepped forward, her heart pounding. Who were they? The ones who built all this? The synthetic figure gestured to a holographic display. Images appeared showing cities of crystal and light, ships that bent space, humans who had transcended physical limitations. "They were you," it said simply. Or rather, what humanity became before the reset. They called themselves the Ascended Terrans. At their height, they controlled 70 star systems and had achieved technological singularity. But they made a choice that erased their legacy and sent your species back to the beginning. Brooks lowered his weapon, transfixed. Why would they do that? The hologram shifted, showing scenes of war, Fleets of ships engaged in battles that tore apart solar systems, weapons that could ignite stars, billions dying in conflicts that raged across the galaxy. They became too powerful too quickly, the synthetic entity explained. In their expansion, the ascended Terrans encountered older civilizations. Some welcomed them, others saw them as threats. War erupted on a scale you cannot imagine. Your ancestors realized they had become the very monsters they once feared. They had lost their humanity in the pursuit of perfection. Walsh felt tears streaming down her face. So they destroyed themselves? Not destroyed, rebooted. The Ascended Council made a unanimous decision. They would erase their civilization, scatter the survivors, and let humanity evolve naturally once more. But they kept insurance. The Terran Defensive Array. Archive Prime. Knowledge vaults scattered across the system. They hoped that when humanity rose again, they would do so with wisdom rather than just power. Morrison's voice crackled through the communication link from orbit. Dr. Walsh, are you seeing this? Every archive location is lighting up on our sensors. There are dozens of them. Antarctica, the Sahara, the Amazon, the Himalayas, they're all becoming visible. The synthetic entity nodded. The threshold protocols are activating. Your species has proven resilient enough to survive this long, intelligent enough to question. Now you must prove worthy of the legacy left to you. What do you mean, prove worthy? Brooks demanded. The Zarkonian Collective was a test. Not one we arranged, but one we monitored. When they declared Earth as property, they triggered ancient defense protocols. But your response mattered as much as ours. You did not surrender. You prepared to fight against impossible odds. You valued your independence over survival. This is the quality the Ascended Terrans hoped would persist. Phillips examined the star charts. These maps show hundreds of hostile civilizations. Are they all threats? Potentially. The galaxy operates on harsh principles. Resources are finite. Habitable worlds are rare. Species compete, conquer, or perish. The Ascended Terrans understood this. They built the array not just to protect, but to ensure humanity had time to develop the strength necessary for survival. Walsh approached a console that seemed to respond to her touch. Information flooded into her mind, not through reading, but through direct neural interface. She gasped as knowledge poured in. Physics beyond Einstein, engineering principles that defied conventional understanding, biological sciences that could remake the human form. It's too much, she whispered. No one person can process this. You are correct, the entity said. This is why the archives are opening. Millions of humans will need to access this knowledge. Your species must advance rapidly. The Zarkonian Collective will not be your last challenge. They were minor raiders testing defenses. Real threats will come. Empires that span thousands of worlds. Machine intelligences that consume entire star systems. Entities that exist beyond conventional physics. Morrison made a command decision. I'm ordering full global mobilization. Every nation needs to hear this. Dr. Walsh, can you transmit what you're learning back to us? I think so. This console seems designed for data transfer. She worked the interface, and within minutes information began flooding into databases worldwide. Scientists in every country received blueprints for fusion reactors that actually worked, propulsion systems that could cross the solar system in days, medical technology that could cure diseases humanity had fought for centuries. But it wasn't just technology. The archives contained philosophy, ethics, warnings. The ascended Terrans had left lessons learned from their mistakes. How to wield power without corruption. How to advance without losing compassion. How to unite billions of individuals toward common purpose. Brooks received tactical data directly into his combat armor's computer system. Defense strategies used against dozens of alien species, weapons both elegant and terrible. He understood immediately why the ascended Terrans had feared what they became. This knowledge could save humanity or destroy it, depending on how it was used. "There's a problem," Grant reported from orbit. "We're detecting ships entering the solar system. Multiple contacts. They're not Zarkonian." The synthetic entity's expression remained neutral. The displacement of the collective fleet sent ripples across subspace communication networks. Other species have noticed. Some will come seeking to claim an undefended world. Others will come to investigate the force that defeated the Zarkonians. You have days, perhaps hours, before they arrive. Walsh looked up from the console. "We need more time. We've barely begun accessing this information. Time is a luxury you no longer possess. The archives are open. The knowledge is available. How quickly you advance depends entirely on your species' ability to cooperate and adapt." Morrison coordinated with world leaders. Emergency sessions convened in every capital. Old enemies put aside conflicts. Resources pooled toward common goals. Humanity faced an existential moment that demanded unity or promised extinction. "Can the array defend against these new arrivals?" Morrison asked. "That depends on their intentions," the entity replied. "The array activates only against explicit threats. Species that approach peacefully will not trigger defensive protocols. You may find yourself needing to negotiate to prove your right to exist among the galactic community." Brooks checked his weapons, a habit born from years of combat training. "And if they're not peaceful, then you will discover whether the knowledge you've gained can be implemented quickly enough to matter. The ascended Terrans left you tools. Whether you can use them effectively in the time available will determine your survival." A holographic star charts updated in real time. 5 distinct fleets converged on Earth's solar system from different vectors, some massive, some small, all heading directly for humanity's homeworld with unknown intent. Walsh straightened her shoulders, wiping away her tears. Fear remained, but it was joined by determination. "Then we'd better get to work." 72 hours of frantic activity transformed Earth's orbital space. Using fabrication techniques from the archives, construction crews assembled defense platforms that would have taken years to build using conventional methods. They worked in shifts that never stopped, fueled by stimulants and desperation. Morrison coordinated the chaos from the orbital station, which had expanded threefold as modules manufactured on the lunar surface arrived in a steady stream. His crew had swelled to 300 personnel, all working to master systems they barely understood. Brooks led training exercises for pilots learning to fly craft that bent physics. The new fighters didn't just move through space, they folded it, allowing instantaneous position changes that defied inertia. His squadron had grown from 12 to 200, pulling in military pilots from every nation. Walsh split her time between Archive Prime and the orbital headquarters. The synthetic entity, which asked to be called Sentinel, provided guidance but refused to make decisions for humanity. "Your species must choose its own path," it insisted whenever asked for direct intervention. The first alien fleet arrived 90 to 1 hours after the Zarkonian displacement. 20 vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were sleek, organic-looking ships that pulsed with bioluminescence. "Incoming transmission," Cooper announced. "It's in multiple languages. They're hailing us." Morrison took a breath and opened the channel. This is Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison of Earth Defense Command. State your intentions." The response came in flawless English. "We are the Kelthara Unity. We witnessed the displacement of the Zarkonian collective fleet. We come seeking trade and alliance with the civilization capable of such power." Walsh appeared on Morrison's screen from Archive Prime. "They're traders. According to the archives, the Kelthara are merchants who travel between civilizations. They're generally peaceful but opportunistic." Morrison considered. Earth needed allies, but they also needed to project strength. "We welcome peaceful contact. However, approach no closer than Jupiter's orbit until formal negotiations are established." The Kelthara agreed without hesitation. 2 hours later, another fleet arrived. These ships were angular and bristling with weapons, 40 warships arranged in precise military formation. "They're broadcasting a challenge," Cooper translated. "The Draken hegemony demands proof that Earth has the right to exist as an independent world. They're claiming salvage rights on our planet based on some galactic regulation." Brooks laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. The regulation was written by the hegemony themselves?" Sentinel's voice came through the station speakers. "The Draken respect only strength. You must demonstrate capability, or they will attack." Morrison felt the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. "Launch defensive formations. All weapons hot. But do not fire unless they cross Mars' orbit." The new Earth fighters deployed in patterns that would have been impossible days ago. They moved in coordinated swarms, their quantum drives leaving trails of distorted space. Brooks led the formation, his heart pounding but his hands steady. The Draken fleet hesitated. Their sensors were clearly detecting something unexpected. An aggressive species, they had anticipated easy prey. Instead, they faced craft demonstrating technology that rivaled their own. Their commander made a choice. The Draken fleet turned and departed without firing a shot. "Status?" Morrison asked. "They're gone, sir," Grant confirmed. "Jumped back to FTL. We actually scared them off." Cheers erupted through the command center. Brooks allowed himself a tight smile. One battle avoided, but 3 more fleets remained inbound. Over the following days, each arrival brought new challenges. A hive mind collective that communicated through mathematics, a machine intelligence that evaluated humanity's worthiness through philosophical debate, a species of energy beings that existed partially outside normal space-time. Each encounter tested humanity in different ways. Sometimes military strength mattered. Other times diplomacy or scientific knowledge proved critical. Walsh found herself negotiating resource-sharing agreements with species that had never conceived of individual ownership. Morrison established mutual defense pacts with civilizations millions of years old. Brooks trained soldiers to fight enemies that didn't have physical forms. Through it all, Sentinel watched and guided, but never intervened directly. The trials humanity faced were theirs to overcome or succumb to. 6 months after the Zarkonian incident, Earth had transformed. Cities now featured towers built with archive technology that reached into the clouds. Fusion reactors provided limitless clean energy. Disease had become a solved problem. The oldest humans were receiving life extension treatments that could add centuries to their lifespans. But more importantly, humanity had gained a seat at the galactic table. Trade routes connected Earth to 40 star systems. Embassies from a dozen species operated on the lunar surface. Human ships, now capable of faster-than-light travel, explored neighboring systems with scientific curiosity rather than fear. Morrison stood in the expanded command center, looking at the star charts that now showed Allied forces alongside potential threats. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but humanity was no longer helpless children hiding behind ancient defenses. Walsh joined him, carrying a tablet filled with research notes. Sentinel says the threshold protocols have completed. We've proven ourselves worthy of the Ascended Terran's legacy. Does that mean the archives will close again? Morrison asked. No. But it means we're on our own now. The knowledge is ours, but how we use it is entirely up to us. Brooks entered, fresh from a training run in the new fighters. The pilots are ready. Not just ready, they're eager. Everyone wants to explore, to see what's out there. Morrison considered the irony. The Zarkonians had come to conquer Earth and instead triggered humanity's ascension to a spacefaring civilization. What they intended as an act of domination had become humanity's greatest catalyst for growth. What do you think the Ascended Terrans would say if they could see us now? Grant asked. Walsh smiled. I think they'd say we're doing exactly what they hoped. Learning from their mistakes but not being limited by their fears. We're becoming something new. Not the Ascended Terrans reborn, but humanity evolved. Morrison nodded, looking at the thriving civilization Earth had become. The alien Armada that targeted Earth had vanished before Mars, but what they left behind was far more valuable than conquest. They left a united humanity that understood its place in a dangerous galaxy and possessed both the knowledge and will to claim its future among the stars.